So comment, subscribe, dislike, or like. Check out the links in the descriptions for other of my sites, other activities that I'm involved in. Got a whole bunch of Facebook groups you can check out. I play multiple card games, so I do music among other things, so check out the links in the description. So this is my Crimson Bride wedding deck. So we got 2 copies of Valky, God of Lies, 2 copies of Redain, God of the Worthy. We mainly use it for the Protector's Shield. It's rare that we actually play the creature version. Plunder, Barbarian, 2 copies of that. 2 Edgar, 2 Turgid, 2 Westgate, 2 Olivia Crimson Bride. 2. 4 Poison the Cup, 4 Inscription of Ruin, 4 Igneous Inspiration, 4 Burn Down the House, 4 Curse of Leeches, 4 Sorin the Mirthless, 4 Plains, 2 Swamps, 2 Mountains, 2 Bright Climb Pathway, 4 of them, 4 Blight Step Pathway, 4 Haunted Bridge, 4 Needle Verge Pathway. So it's our lands. That should be 24. Yeah, 24. So obviously there's some gameplay, so you can see the deck in action. Ironically, when I play deck, I don't get her effect as often, but I do get it from time to time. The goal is to obviously put up the shield. Got to get that up. Want to get that up and running, because that help greatly increases your creature survival rates. So most of them, you notice that they have like 4 toughness. This one has 5. So if your opponent is dropping like 4/4 angels and stuff like that, the shield really comes in handy. So that's the main thing you're trying to do, is play the shield. And then a Curse of Leeches, so you can make your opponent lose life and you gain life. You want Sorin to, first thing you do when you first play him is you want to play the -2, create the vampire creature token with flying lifelink, so that we can start gaining life with that, as well as just have, a body on board. And then after that, start doing the +1, so that way you can, as your draw engine, so that we can try to make sure you get your lands. You want to be able to play more of your cards. You definitely want to get Edgar out there. You eventually want to get Olivia out there, especially if you have creatures in your graveyard. She can bring them back. Westgate is one of your main win cons because of the fact that every time he deals damage, he'll get markers, +1/+1 counters for each damage he deals. So on the first attack, he'll deal 4 damage, so he'll get 4 markers. So he'll have 8 power. So on the next attack, he'll deal 8 damage, gain 8 counters, right? So he'll be 16. So in a couple turns, you can win. So that's why we have him in there. He's a vampire, so Edgar will power him up, because Edgar gives +1/+1 to other vampires. The tokens are also, vampires, so they'll get powered up. So having Edgar and Sorin, creating tokens will give you a nice little army. Edgar, when he dies, he turns into the legendary artifact, Edgar's Coffin, and then he'll start creating 1/1 white and black vampire creature tokens with lifelink. Further keep your defenses up, as well as keep gaining life. From the Barbarian, serves the purpose of getting rid of anybody's artifacts, especially if you like, let's say somebody else is using Edgar. Once Edgar turns into an artifact, you can just destroy the artifact, and then you don't have to worry about Edgar coming back. Because when he dies as a creature, he becomes an artifact. But if he dies as an artifact, he doesn't come back. So that's the important detail there. So keep that in mind. So it comes in handy in that regards. Plus, it's good against stuff like chariots. There's a lot of decks that use artifacts, so you definitely want some artifact hate. But also helps you ramp up by getting tokens, treasure tokens, so you ramp to your bigger place like your Olivia. Turgid, both the artifact part of. I use the artifact part of the card more, the lantern part more than the God of Fright part, but it's an option. But definitely use the lantern more to make my opponent lose life. Sometimes they sacrifice cards. Valky, God of Lies, definitely love it when I play him as Talbot. When I drop it as a Planeswalker, you start exiling things. Obviously, typically the first thing I do when I play him is the -3 to exile a artifact or a creature. Typically a creature, and then of course with his once you play him, you get the emblem that lets you play whatever is exiled. So even when he leaves the field, you still have access to all of that stuff you exile. I actually just recently was able to do his -8. I was so surprised. I was able to get to the point where I did his -8, and man, that was crazy. So crazy. So that was fun, but I was in a different deck, but it was cool to pull that off. But typically, I just -3. Then after that, just do the +2 just to start getting advantage. Using my opponent's lands for to ramp myself up, so I can have lands to play and play my opponent's cards and beat them with their own stuff. So yeah, elements of control there. One of the first things you want to attempt to do on turn 2, if I'm not foretell my poison the cup, is to drop Valky, God of Lies. Besides his Planeswalker part, you typically want to, with the first copy, there's only 2 in the deck, right? The first copy you want to play on turn 2, so you can look at your opponent's hand, and that gives you an idea of what to do, right? It gives you hand knowledge of what to do for the next couple of turns, which I take full advantage of. And then later on, when I get the second copy, then I drop it as a Planeswalker and just take full control of the game after that. I mean, he's good enough to have 4 copies instead. If you really don't care for the Plundering Barbarian, you can just take it out and just put 2 more Valky and just go from there. It's a really good card. It's in a lot of work. We have Ruins of Inscriptions, which is good, especially if you turn 1 play this, take something from your opponent. Plus, you could potentially turn this into whatever you take, which will be a creature, and then play that creature and use it against your opponent, and then use Inscription to knock to make them discard 2 cards from hand. So there's some hand control there. Inspiration, obviously we have a sideboard for it. Let's do 3 damage to any target. Is good to finish out games, good to kill something with, or to weaken something. And then of course with the learn mechanic, you can go learn and get some cards. This itself is like a win con, especially when it turns into the Leeching Lurker, the 4/4 lifelink. Gotta keep gaining that life and do as much damage as you want. Burn Down Owls, it's our board wipe, but sometimes you can use it to make the tokens. Use the tokens for defense or offense. So that comes in handy in that regards. And then for our sideboard, we have 1 Environmental Sciences, 1 Reduced to Memory, 1 Necrotic Fumes, 1 Start from Scratch, 1 Inkling Summoning, 1 Pest Summoning, and 1 Introduction to Annihilation. Typically, one of the first things I do is grab an Introduction to Annihilation, because your opponent will always play something that's just going to be a big problem, like a Seeker's Chariot or something like that, or some type of powerful enchantment that's going to be a problem, or even just a creature that's just like indestructible and all this extra broken stuff, and it's like, yeah, gotta get rid of that. Or a creature that just gets stronger from from your opponent gaining life and stuff. So definitely it's a go-to card. But there are other options for other situations. So it's better to have and not need than to need and not have, right? And that's the end of the video.